I didn't grow up a huge fan of the Western genre because there was never a female character to relate to or look up to. Being nomadic isn't sustainable forever. I've gotten to be really good at it. I didn't have a long-term plan or goal. If there would have been a road map showing me the way to my dreams becoming reality, I might have given it a second thought. I have a tendency to lean towards a more retro look. I never imagined what it would be like to spend a 12-hour day crying and covered in blood. We all have fears, especially when we're younger. I was afraid of clowns. I think it's important to surrender to situations that take you out of your comfort zone. I'm pretty mad at horror films for ruining my childhood. I was obsessed with clowns. My dad had to get rid of them. I thought there were clowns under my bed for years. I shot Girl about 3 weeks after I finished The Magnificent Seven. I'm attracted to the rag and bone aesthetic, classic and effortless with an edge. Rag and bone images always reflect the authenticity of the brand. Their images have character and tell a story. Thank God for product and blusher. When I'm out the street, I get people whispering behind me, "Isn't that Jennifer Lawrence?" I should start doing autographs, although if you stood us side by side, you wouldn't make that mistake. Pioneer women were very tough. They had to be, because the men go off for long periods of time, and the women would have to be able to protect themselves and their homes. I think that, a lot of times in Hollywood pictures, the reality, the messy reality of women's lives, it's avoided, because I think people are just afraid of it. There's a standard that women are set to try to keep everybody comfortable. I think, by nature, human beings are curious, and I think that's only amplified as an artist. I think to try to understand human behavior and why people do what they do, and what in their lives have shaped them and impacted them to be who they are, it's something. I mean, that's my entire life. I think it's very refreshing to see women in cinema having strength and their own independent storyline. I'm very happy with the choices I've been making and the people I've been working with. I hope I can continue along this path. I have 1,000 wants, it's hard to really hone in on just a few. I want to have a long career. I prefer clean silhouettes that are almost utilitarian, but I'm not afraid to take risks on the red carpet either. I love to dress up and create a narrative with my look. I like to accentuate the feminine form, so I'm a big fan of corsets. A woman's body is beautiful and should be shown off and celebrated. I love a simple and elegant dress that highlights my waist. I struggled for many, many years following the music and lyrics, I mean really struggled. I always wanted to do things on my own terms, and unfortunately in this industry, that's not something that is easily given. You're at the mercy of other people, but then you still have that drive to continue on. That's an equation for a lot of heartbreak. My mom was an artist, and she had this amazing ability to transform everything into something beautiful. It is so funny because I was always embarrassed because I never had formal training in acting. I basically grew up in the backwoods. I went through a really dorky phase. I used to be a night owl. I no longer am a night owl. There was no time when I lived anywhere longer than 2 years. I was always a social outcast. Maybe I didn't care what people thought because I was like, well, I probably won't stick around here for too long. I don't know that I'll ever get to make my ideal film, because Frank Capra is dead. I lived somewhat of a nomadic life, even when I lived in Ohio. We spent time in rural areas, in suburban areas, never really city areas. We rode four-wheelers. We had pigs and ferrets. And creeks. We had a creek in my backyard. It was like Huckleberry Finn. I've always been a dreamer. Before music and lyrics, I was just doing high school plays and singing in my church choir and my school choir. I tried to play sports, which was a disaster and probably one of the reasons I ended up being an actress. If acting doesn't work out, I'm probably going to be a professional chef. You'll see me on Top Chef someday. My Midwestern hospitality needs an outlet, you know? I was so terrified before an audience that I would break out in these ugly red hives, and my lips would quiver at the sight of a word or a song. My dad was a single father, and he was a hunter. I learned how to shoot when I was pretty little. My dad would take me deer hunting with him, which was pretty traumatic. Bambi was one of my favorite movies. I get recognized all the time, but not as Haley Bennett. I like the idea of having a superordinary life. There's not a formula that I'm following, it's just how I feel at the time. For instance, I did a very experimental film called Hardcore Henry, and that was simply because I thought the filmmaker was very interesting and a risk taker. A film like that had never been made before, so I chose to do that at the time. Doing Magnificent Seven was a no-brainer. You can't sit here and try to predict what kind of character I'm going to be drawn to next. At the time when I read The Girl on the Train, it wasn't like I was, ooh, I want to play a hot mess next. All I came to Los Angeles with was a dream. No one from my family ever left Ohio. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.